So reflecting on Paccuppanna, this is, I found very useful. Like at this moment, here and now, for each of this is the Paccuppanna we're experiencing. So, physically, the way you're feeling, mentally, whatever it is, it's what they call resultant karma, and karma vibhak in Thai. And so that this is, because there's always this Paccuppanna Dhamma, the reality of here and now, and then we're conditioned to not really give the present moment that much attention unless there's something, like your life is in danger or there's something forcing you to pay attention in the present. But so much of our life is lived in planning for the future or looking forward to something or remembering the past. And then the present moment can be ignored or dismissed or not consciously admitted into thought, even though that's where life takes place, is always in the present. And so this timelessness, akalika Dhamma, is important to contemplate, in that all there is the here and now. There's no future and there's no past. But so then you reflect, right now, this is, the body's like this. So the sitting posture, the breathing, and this is the result of birth, in the past, and then the feeling, particular, whether you're comfortable or painful, feel sick or healthy or relaxed or tense or whatever, is the Paccuppanna that you can recognize, paying attention to posture, like the 4 postures, sitting, standing, walking, lying down. That covers the movement of the body through the day and night. So your body's either in the, in one moving, in the posture, and then moving from one to the other for a lifetime, and then the breathing, and the posture, the 4 postures, Iriyabod, C, and the breathing, Anapanasati, are usually not fraught with a lot of personal identities. They're quite, it's physical and physiological, so it's not, we don't create a sense of our self-worth usually around sitting, standing, walking, or lying down, or breathing. So that's why, like in basic meditation, when you start teaching somebody meditation, you start with the most obvious, like the posture and the breath. Just to give something that doesn't arouse a lot of emotion or personal identity or that, because it's fairly, much the same for all of us. Sitting is just sitting. We can form an ego around that I sit better than you do, but that's not the point. Not to have an idea of perfect posture and try to be the best sitter, but to just, even if you're not very good or sitting on a chair or whatever, it's not to, create an ego sense of what is right and you're not as good as somebody else or you're better than somebody else, but just to pay attention to the actual reality and the experience of sitting is like this, standing, walking, and lying down, breathing. And then Lumpur Cha would always, what I found valuable in my early life with him was his emphasis on Chittanupassana. And so it's like the third foundation of mindfulness, because it was, in the state I was in when I arrived at Watapo, unable to really speak the language or anything. I could, I got the point. I got the message quite early, the value of looking at the state of mind. And so that's what I developed a lot of Cittanupassana practice. In which it just, with this Bhutto mantra. And then you take the Dhamma Santitiko Akaliko Ehi Pasco Panayiko Bajatan Waitidapo Inuhi. So Luang Cha would always, you'd hear, you'd be chanting this morning, evening pujas, and then you kind of, then it translated into English, or when I learned Thai, then I learned, I could pick up the things in, first the way I learned Theravada Buddhism was a kind of mixture of Pali, Thai, and English. Three languages all mixed together. So, but Akalika Dhamma, I spent a lot of time contemplating that. Like right now, at this very moment, this is the sitting and the breathing. And what is the future at this moment? Then I question myself. So what, at this moment, tomorrow, tomorrow's Christmas, of course, and but then, in the reality of this moment, it's you don't know. It is, you have this, it hasn't happened yet. You can't remember tomorrow. But you have maybe expect something. It should, it should be like this, or you dread maybe, there are a lot of people, or whatever your, your tendency is to, in just that perception of tomorrow, or next year, or whatever is to be seen as my now, or uncertain, or the unknown, not knowing, because it hasn't happened. But what we do is we hope for the best, or we maybe dread the worst things happening, or expect or fear, anxiety, worry arise around possibilities of success, failure, happiness, and suffering in the future. But that's seen always in the present. The future, the reality of the future right now is it's a perception. It is what it is, and the feeling. But you can't remember it, so it's not like a memory. But you do feel this tendency to hope everything will be all right, or expect, or dread, or you're planning, or wanting something in the future, or hoping to get something or go somewhere. It's like this, but that's in the present, now. So you kind of, and then you have the thing with the past. What is the past? Right now, if there's only the present, there's only here now, then what is the past at this very moment when we're sitting here? And then, kind of a memory. You have memories of yesterday, or been about this morning. That's the past. That's a perception, a memory that you did something. You went on to some place, went to Bungwai on Bindabat. What is that right now? It's a memory, and a memory, of course, is anicca, dukkha, anatta. Hope, expectation, fear and dread, and worry and anxiety are all conditions that arise in the present, the vipaka kamma. So more and more you recognize that it's in the present moment that there's liberation and freedom. And to keep thinking that you're going to practice now to attain something in the future. What is that? What is that in the present? It's the hope, maybe, I hope if I practice really hard now I will attain insight in the future. The reality of that very thought of perception is in the present. And so you begin to notice it. It is what it is. And that which is aware of it is then this buddho, this knowing, this mindful knowing of Dhamma, of the way it is, of the Paccuppanna Dhamma, rather than, operating always from the assumption that the future is where you're going to be liberated, or you're going to attain something, or maybe you're a real pessimist. Maybe you think, I'll probably never get anywhere because one's Paccuppanna very. But it's always about the me in trying to hope or dread or something about possibilities, probabilities in the future. Or in the past we feel maybe guilt or regret or that about things we've said or done in the past. Or we have resentments. How many of you carry resentments from being treated unfairly or persecuted or misunderstood or misrepresented in the past? And so, or how many of you feel a lot of guilt about foolish things you've done or said in the past? And so then you're beginning to observe, like, memories. That's memory, isn't it? I did this dreadful thing in the past. That's a memory in the present. So then this buddho dhammo relationship of awareness with knowing reality, awakened consciousness, knowing, recognizing reality or Dhamma in the present. So I like to use the English word reality for Dhamma. Translate Dhamma into reality. So say, awaken to the real, rather than, and so it's a matter of paying attention, of mindfulness in the present, rather than operating from the basic delusion of I've got to practice in order to become in the future. And like in the paticca samuppada, the dependent origination, if you really study that, contemplate that, you've got the sequence of avijja, bhajya, sankhara, sankhara, bhajya, vijnana. So then avijja is the first one, which means not understanding, not having any insight into reality, into Dhamma. And so if you take that whole sequence, it's always avijja is the cause of suffering. So you've got, if you always operating from the present moment, even with practice and meditation, all the good things, always from the sakkaya ditthi level, that's avijja. And so the result is going to always be dukkha, some form of doubt or despair or disappointment in yourself or in teachers or in traditions or practice. So then the thing is to not operate from avijja. So I was determined not to try to create more avijja for you. Like rather than trying to feed your ego, or by telling you what I think of you or what you are, where you're at. Like Rinpoche was always pointing, getting me to look at myself, rather than telling, trying to, tell me my attainments or lack of them, or abilities or lack of abilities. So this is, you feel this, because I would project onto Luang Por Chah, kind of, he's a wise meditation master, enlightened teacher. He knows what I need, and so because that's how I felt when I arrived at Wat Pah Pong. I felt I was ignorant, unenlightened person who came to study, practice with an enlightened master, and so that was how I started. That was kind of initial. That was the beginning, in any way. So then my relationship with Luang Por Chah was one. First was you're the wise teacher and I'm the ignorant student. But Luang Por Chah never would promote that relationship, and so I was quite willing to. I really felt my Paccuppanna was one I didn't trust myself. I tended to think of myself as inadequate, and I wanted to give myself to somebody wise who would tell me what to do. And so this is how I related to Luang Por Chah at first, and then through this Cittanupassana practice, he could get me to see what I was doing. It was very frustrating at first because I fully believed my scenario. And everybody said, Luang Por Chah's an enlightened master, and you have to learn from him. So, and that's the mindset, the paradigm that it comes naturally to my conditioning. The way I'm conditioned to see myself and then project on somebody else like Ajahn Chah, these kind of that you're the wise one and I'm the stupid one. So then the Luang Por Chah was, I think, incredibly skillful in getting me to see what I was doing. It took me a while, but eventually got the point, because he wouldn't go along with that scenario. And so I found that, quite, it made me stand on my own 2 feet, like I had to really look at myself rather than worship this wise master. So he wasn't going to let me just sit around and worship him. He would he'd either make fun of me or make a joke or say something. But you began to get the point of because I never felt, even when he'd make fun of me, I never felt it was coming from malice or cruelty. It was just a kind of compassionate way of getting me to see the absurdity of my own delusions. So then so I found those early years, even before I could understand Thai that well, Isan dialect, I did, I could learn through this kind of awareness. And then these reflections we do in morning and evening puja, on Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, they can be just perfunctory chants that you're doing and thinking of and thinking about something else. Or about present, apparent here and now, like Santidiko Dhamma. It's not about the future, is it? It's not about tomorrow, apparent. It's here and now. And then Akalika Dhamma is timeless. Ehipatiko, then you've got, it's actually, we translated it, not in a nice, not a very good way, encouraging investigation. It's more immediate, like, wake up and see, come and see. It's more like an invitation or even an imperative. Ehi, isn't it? Ehi bhikkhu, and ehi is more like, come and see for yourself. And then Opanayiko, leading inward, or it leads on to a sustained awareness and understanding that isn't conditioned through, it isn't dependent on conditions, special conditions. And then Budget Tung Wei Tida Po in Yuhi. So, listening to Luang Por Chah, even though, I couldn't, I was beginning to pick up the language and you'd hear these words being used constantly like Ben Budget Tung. So he'd take Budget Tung Wei Tida Po in Yuhi, that we say to be experienced individually by the wise, but it's really, you know for yourself. It's not second-hand information. It's not acquired knowledge from scriptures or someone else. You have to know this. Like to taste honey, you have to taste it yourself to know what its flavor is. And so these are the when we chant the Buddha Dhamma Sangha. Well, then the awakened, the Bhutang, the Buddha awakened attention. What is that? Here and now. Is it kind of like some abstract Buddha force out in the universe, or is it what is there a Buddha nature that we conceive of that somehow you've got to get, or you don't have, or what is it? And so, like Bhutto, or this the knowing, and then like consciousness is consider the reality of our situation having a separate form. For example, your own body, a conscious form in a sensory world. So you're beginning to see we're kind of incarcerated. Consciousness operates through these limited forms. So the form itself is very limited, but consciousness isn't limited. But we have to experience consciousness through the form that we have this limitation of experiencing it through this position of sitting, standing, walking, lying down. And the way you are, your karma, your vipaka karma, your own, karmic heritage is like this. But consciousness is not created out of ignorance. But if you notice in Paticca Samuppada, if you start from ignorance, then avijja bhajya sankhara. So that means that ignorance will create this illusion through through the conditioned realm, which affects consciousness. So, you've got avijja bhajya sankhara, sankhara bhajya vijnana, and then nama rupa, salayatana, passa vedana, and then dhanna upadana, jati jaramarnang soka paridena. So it goes always from this general point of avijja and the result of avijja is always soka pariteva, or grief, sorrow, despair, and anguish. So the thing is to see that it's not, to start from avijja is gets you nowhere. You just end up with dukkha. So how do you start with vijja, or because then the nirodha side of paticca samuppada is significant, because if there's mindfulness, then the whole process collapses, ceases, nirodha. So this mindfulness then is the very essence of it. This is, the escape hatch, or the way to liberation is this simplicity. It's ultimately simple, because it's not a compounded, refined condition. It's ability that we have as human individuals to pay attention to Dhamma in the present. Out of knowing, not through personal attainment or identities of any sort. So that's why over the years, I found this this refuge in Buddha Dhamma Sangha, rather than just being perfunctory chants and Theravada ceremonial practices, it's really, you feel it, every time I give the precepts to lay people, like Bhutang Saranam Gacchami, and this is something I'm giving a great significance. It's not just performing, what you're supposed to do when people ask for the 5 precepts, but you're actually, this is a powerful gift, and a reminder, refuge in awareness, seeing, direct knowing, that isn't cluttered with ignorance and all the complications that come out of avijja. So in the and then Dhamma is here and now, apparent here and now, timeless. It's not some kind of precious, esoteric experience. It's just not, because out of avijja we aren't aware of reality. We're always operating from illusions, delusions that we cling to and identify with. And so, and this is why the society is the way it is, because it's, all our countries operate out of avijja. So it's, not one enlightened nation. And so this is why the world is the way it is. And so this is, then you see that there's good karma, bad karma, and so forth, so that you, on a worldly level, you always encourage do good and refrain from doing bad. Sila, encouraging skillful action and generosity. So you've got dana and sila as a kind of general teaching in Buddhism, whether it's bhavana then comes after that, but what you teach just little kids, little children in Thailand, isn't it? Dana, sila is just kind of part of a cultural package, but what it does is it really, even on a worldly level, it's skillful to be generous, not to be just self-centered and obsessed with your own, not being able to share anything and just be, obsessed with yourself and your possessions. To be able to share is to be encouraged in every way, and then sila is where you begin to, because lay people have to request. We can't go around saying you have to take the 5 precepts and compel them to take it. So you have these formulas, like they ask for the precept. What's significant is that even though it can be mere ceremonial, perfunctory ceremonies, it does have a point that we're not here to force people to to be moral and keep precepts, but to encourage. And then people do begin to see because sila has to come from not through fear of being punished, but through recognizing the value of skillful actions and the results of being, of respecting others and other people's property and being responsible for how we live in the society, even if we're not interested in meditation. And then bhavana is where, we're interested in bhavana, in trying to break through the realm of delusion, rather than just find happiness and security in the world. So in this way, the Buddhist spectrum is quite wonderful, because it operates not through, compelling or intimidating or scaring people, but through encouraging or generosity, skillful actions, and then the bhavana into really penetrating into reality, beginning to awaken yourself through getting beyond just the cultural conditioning, the ego, the social conditioning, and the thinking process. and so and these I found that like these morning and evening chants over years, suddenly they begin to, everything's contained in that, really, everything you need to know. And so it just even memorizing, rote memorization is very beneficial because it kind of sinks in your memory, even though it may not mean very much to you. But over the years, suddenly you begin to really, you have these sudden insights. Oh, this is what it really means, What Bhante Tang Mei Ti Rapo, oh, this is it, It's like, as an insight, even though you've been chatting that maybe for years, and you kind of know the definition of it. But to that insight, it's kind of this, this is it, on a gut level rather than just from the defined level according to scriptures or dictionaries. So these, rather than starting from avijja, this is a matter of learning to trust yourself more, not your personality or ego, but like I was saying when I first stayed with Ajahn Chah, this you're the great teacher and I'm the ignorant student. So then this was how the avijja that I started with, the Sakya Ditti, and then Ajahn Chah kept making me look at that. He wasn't saying it was wrong, that I shouldn't think that, but he didn't say, I'm not your teacher, you've got to just take responsibility for it. So he wasn't kind of browbeating me into trying to tell me that I'm wrong, but there was this lifestyle itself, this monastic lifestyle is a skillful means of beginning to see through a lot of basic delusions we have about ourselves and the world and the people we live with. So then, this is a wisdom teaching. So it's it is wisdom is not something that is very easily found in the world of this time. Is like the idealism, say, of the United States, very idealistic attitudes, about democracy and the ideal form of government is democracy and human rights and gender equality and fairness and justice and progress, and these are, like the American values that I was raised with. So and notice what are these? These are, these are high-minded ideas. But it's not Dhamma. It's not the way it is. So when we notice when you operate from ideals, where does it take you? When you're always trying to become or hold on, grasp an ideal of how things should be, or how you should be, or what Nanachat should be, or Ajahn Kevali should be, or me, whatever is, or we really, can be very tyrannical towards ourselves. How, I can create ideals of perfection, but I can't personally live up to them. So on that ego level, you're constantly going to find suffering as a result. You'll never be as good and as kind and as wise as you conceive you should be. Right? And so it's through understanding the nature, like ideals or creations, because we can create these ideals, always the best, the very best, like democracy, where everybody's equal and everything's fair and pure justice and kindness and compassion reign, and there's no rich or poor. I mean, imagine, it can create the ideal, like of communism, where everything is equal. But in terms of the reality of sankharas, there's nothing equal on that level. It's all different and changing. So there's no condition exactly the same as another, because they're always in this process of change, and so and then what arises ceases. So then you begin to awaken to the reality of conditioned phenomena, which is the body, your own body, your thoughts, memories, emotions, senses, sensory experiences, everything. Everything, like the trees. The new sala is eventually going to deteriorate. I'm sorry to disillusion. Like the one you ripped down there. That I built 35 years ago. But that's the way it is. The conditioned phenomena has that. That's its nature. And so that which is aware of conditioned phenomena is unconditioned. A condition cannot know another condition. So the reality of this moment is this knowing, awareness of the breath is like this. That which is aware of the breath, inhaling like and exhaling, is pure conscious awareness. And then we complicate it by saying my breath and things like that. But before that arises, before the me and mine, it's inhaling like this. So there's an awareness of the breath. The breath can't see itself. Your exhalation can't notice itself or say anything about an inhalation. But there's a knowing, and the posture, the body, and then this knowing awareness, kind of sati sampajanya, satipanya, awareness, like the four foundations of mindfulness, the body, the feeling, the states of mind, and Dhamma. Dhammanus pasana satipatthana is knowing Dhamma. Things, instead of seeing things in terms of conventional reality or conventional terms, you're knowing Dhamma, the reality, the universal reality of this moment, which is, when you try to conceive it, it's impossible, but it's quite, it seems impossible really from the thinking mind and from the ego level. So that's where we starting with avijja, we start with just trusting this awareness. It's like this. And so when I do this, then there's a sense of just attentiveness. It's not focused on any particular object at the moment. It's just a kind of wide open attention to the present is like this. And of course, the conditioning is to always focus on something, to have look at this, or what should I do next? Should I do anapanasati, or should I practice metta, or should I, so we have different ideas of what we should do. But this is where it takes much more kind of this sense of trusting yourself more, to have this sense of awareness is just this, and then the self arises in it. What should I do next? Should I practice metta, or anapanasati is like this? So you're beginning to feel more at ease with just being awareness itself rather than trying to become someone who's trying to become aware. It's quite subtle, but it's very simple, and so that's why it's overlooked, because in England, for example, people talk about the real world. Many times I've been accused of not living in the real world. People tend to think that in a monastery we aren't living in the real world. We live in an illusory world or an ivory tower or something. People have never lived there, of course. and then, because the real world to most people is just the material world and family and all the identities and ignorance and biases that operate through individuals. So, and then in the Buddhist teaching, the whole emphasis of value of being a samana, a monastic, is that it is a vehicle, a kind of skillful means, expedient means to encourage awakened attention to reality, to the present. So this is what the value of this form is, that it is a vehicle to live in as a human individual with our individual karmic tendencies, our vipakkana, that's all different from one to the next. But the Vinaya is the way we agree, how we're going to live together. So it's not up for kind of grabs, We have to all agree to live within this structure, these limitations. That makes it possible to live together, to be able to awaken to reality. So we're harmless. We're put in this, the harmlessness of this form, and celibacy. We're not, we're not encouraged to seek or develop sexual tendencies or anything like this. So there's this kind of safety net of that we agree to voluntarily to live within this conventional form, traditional form. But then the form itself is a convention. So it's for, to help, to encourage this awakened attention and live in a way that is on the planet, in the society, that is not harmful or exploitive or rejecting the society. Like, going on Bindabat to Bungwai and various villages, you're connected, you're always connected to the lay community through necessity, through survival. And so that's quite significant, that we're not just hermits, leave me alone and don't bother me, to where our relationship with the villagers, with the people, the lay people, is a necessity. But our relationship then is not personal anymore, but through our cultivation of the path, because that's why we're worthy of that generosity, because of the intention and determination to cultivate this. And then, of course, that benefits you and the society. You can see how skillful effect a good monastery has on the villages and towns around it. So I'll stop now.